This film is based on a real story of the struggle for truth. In 2009, the police showed up at Andrzej Bamberski's doorstep. The commissioner asked Andrzej if he admitted to having dealings with a certain Boris Malewski. Finding 20,000 euros in Andrzej's apartment, the police arrested him. He pretended not to understand what was happening. Andrzej was taken to the police station for interrogation, facing charges of kidnapping and criminal conspiracy. Vigilantism is a crime, but for Andrzej it was the only way to seek justice. Then events take us back to Morocco in 1974. Andrzej Bamberski is a man who is very meticulous about his work. He has a 4-year-old son Pierre and a 6-year-old daughter Kinka. Danny, Andrzej's wife, introduced him to Dieter Krombach, Kinka's classmate's father. Danny and Dieter got along well. Danny and her family are going to a ski resort this weekend, and Dieter asked to join them. On Saturday, the Bamberski family set off as planned. Everything was going well until another car flew into the oncoming lane, causing an accident. After the impact, Kinka lost consciousness. Danny and Andrzej panicked, but their attempts to revive their daughter were to no avail. Luckily, Dr. Dieter Krombach and his family were traveling right behind them. He immediately took Kinka to a good hospital. The worst was over. Dieter gave Kinka, who had regained consciousness, a box of chocolates. Andrzej sincerely thanked Dieter for his help. Later, Dieter drove exhausted Danny home and openly began to flirt with her. Danny knew it was wrong, but still responded to his kiss. At the present time, Andrzej has been searched and taken to a prison cell. Does he regret his actions? Of course not. In the past, when Andrzej returned home from work, the housekeeper Fatma had already prepared dinner. The wife had allegedly stayed late at the tennis club. Andrzej didn't think much of it, but as he searched the bedroom for his documents, he stumbled upon Dieter's tapes. Danny returned home late. The husband asked directly how long her affair had been going on. She honestly replied that it had been going on for a few weeks. When Andrzej suggested divorce, Danny begged him to give their marriage another chance. Andrzej agreed on the condition that they move. Soon the family was preparing to leave the country. While Andrzej went to handle the formalities at customs, taking the children with him, Dieter approached the car, begging his lover to stay. But Danny chased him away. And so the family left Morocco. In the new place, Danny quickly found a job at a large real estate agency. Andrzej would take care of the children for now. Thus, the roles of wife and husband were reversed. Their life seemed to be getting back on track, but one day Andrzej decided to follow his wife and found out that her relationship with Dieter had continued. Andrzej caught his wife red-handed. A bailiff recorded the fact of marital infidelity. Danny didn't deny anything. 8 years passed. Andrzej moved to a new house. He has a new love, Cecile. Pierre and Kinka are going to visit their mother and stepfather in Germany this weekend. Seeing off the children, Andrzej and Cecile went to the sea together. They were happy. Married to Danny, Dieter became part of the family. One morning, Cecile and Andrzej received a call from Danny, who was crying hysterically on the phone. Hearing the awful news, Andrzej also burst into tears. Cecile embraced him, trying to console. Something terrible happened to Kinka in Germany. Seeing his lifeless daughter, Andrzej cried, unable to stop, just like Cecile. After the morgue, Andrzej immediately went to his son. Later, Dieter told Andrzej that he entered Kinka's room in the morning and found her unconscious. Dieter tried to resuscitate her, but in vain. Andrzej is puzzled as to the reason for Kinka's demise. Dieter doesn't have an answer to this question. Perhaps after spending a long time in the sun yesterday, she felt unwell. Besides, the girl complained of a headache at night. Or maybe it's the consequences of the accident that happened many years ago. Soon the funeral took place. Andrzej was broken, unable to comprehend how such a thing could even be possible. In the evening, Andrzej pondered aloud whether it was possible for Kinka to have taken some substances. Cecile doubted it. Soon Andrzej received a letter with a copy of the autopsy report. Since the text was in German, Andrzej sought help from Robert, a professor at the local university. According to the forensic report, the day before the tragedy, Dieter injected Kinka with iron gluconate because she wanted to tan better. And in the morning, in an attempt to resuscitate Kinka, Dieter administered her a combination of 3 medications, which was simply absurd. The exact cause of demise was never determined. Andrzej showed the report to another forensic specialist, who called it nonsense. The German experts should have conducted more tests. It is more likely that what happened is criminal in nature. Andrzej was in such shock that he was simply incapable of strong emotions. First, he headed to Lindau, Germany, and met with his ex-wife, who didn't believe anyone could harm Kinka, as she had been home all evening. Their conversation was interrupted by Dieter. Andrzej openly began to accuse him, stating his intention to seek an official investigation. A year passed. The first court hearing took place in Munich. Andre's lawyer demanded a review of the case and its reclassification as a crime, but the prosecutor refused due to insufficient evidence. Robert supported Andre, and they together distributed leaflets on the streets exposing Dr. Dieter Krombach. They wanted German justice to acknowledge its mistake. Andre and Robert were arrested for public disturbance. They were released for now, but if they didn't leave Germany immediately, they would face a huge fine. But this didn't stop Andre, and he instructed his assistant to send these letters to as many people as possible. For days and nights on end, Andre read books on criminal law to learn all the laws. This prompted him to appeal to the Supreme Court of Paris, which investigates crimes against French citizens abroad. Lawyer Maitre Guybault agreed to take on the case. In 1985, a court hearing took place in Paris, but Dieter refused to attend, as did Danny. To gather more evidence, exhumation was necessary. Andre agreed to this without hesitation. Experts concluded that during the previous autopsy, some organs had been removed, without which it was impossible to reach a final conclusion. Andre was convinced that this was the work of Dieter, who wanted to destroy the evidence. In 1987, a new investigator in the case managed to obtain all the necessary evidence. Another year passed. Finally, the material was sent to Paris. The previous investigator, who had returned from maternity leave, ordered a new examination. According to the results, Kinka fell into a coma caused by an injection, but it was already impossible to determine what kind of medication it was. 1990 came. Pierre lives with his father but sometimes spends time with his mother. The teenager has tense relationships with both parents. Everything points to Dieter's guilt, but for some reason he was never arrested. Another court hearing took place. This time Danny was present, although she clearly didn't want to be here. She is now divorced from Dieter but continues to defend him, believing that Andre simply wants revenge against his rival. However, all Andre really wants is justice for his daughter. In the evening, Andre invited Cecile to a restaurant to celebrate the resumption of the case against Dieter Krombach. The court session took place. Andre's lawyer stated that Monsieur Krombach staged Kinka's resuscitation just to cover up his crime, and demanded a 30-year prison sentence for him. However, the judge sentenced Dieter, who was absent, to only 15 years. Andre was disappointed, but after the hearing, the lawyer explained that the judge had been pressured by the German authorities. Soon the Bamberski family threw a party to distract themselves from the negativity. Andre was unbearable at the thought that Dieter, who for some reason still hadn't been imprisoned, continued to live peacefully and even had a child with his new young wife. The father advised Andre to finally calm down and think about Cecile and Pierre. Soon Andre received a call from his lawyer and learned that an international arrest warrant for Dieter had still not been issued. The lawyer advised Andre to return to Paris immediately. Soon articles about the impunity of a dangerous criminal appeared in all newspapers, but the German authorities still refused to extradite Dieter. Andre often visits Kinka's grave, feeling guilty before her. Cecile doesn't know how to help him. One day Andre was contacted by a journalist from Germany, from whom he learned that Dieter had recently been arrested for a similar crime, and he would soon be on trial. Cecile worries about Andre, but on the other hand she understands that he cannot not go. In Kempten, Germany, in 1977, the courthouse was surrounded by journalists and outraged women who also brought charges against Dieter. The court session began. Dieter noticed Andre and Robert in the courtroom and demanded that they be removed from here. The victim testified against Dieter. Unlike Kinka, Eva survived. Some time ago, she went to see Dr. Krombach complaining of stomach pains. He gave her some injection, after which she couldn't move. Thinking about what his daughter had endured even worse, Andre couldn't listen to this anymore and ran out of the courtroom. In the restroom he vomited and then cried. For his act, Dieter received only 2 years in prison. Admission of guilt and giving up medical practice served as a reason for leniency. Andre realized that he had lost again and went to his ex-wife, asking if she knew what crime Dieter had recently committed. Danny still doesn't believe in the guilt of her second ex-husband. Their marriage fell apart because of his constant infidelity, so in her opinion there was no point for Dieter, who reveled in female attention, to commit a crime. Andre doesn't understand how his ex-wife can live in lies all these years. Since Dieter is no longer allowed to practice medicine in Germany, he will obviously be looking for work in neighboring countries. Andre and Robert intended to drive through all the border checkpoints and find out if there was an Interpol warrant for Dieter's arrest. When Andre returned home, he found that neither Cecile nor her belongings were here. In Austria in 1998, Dieter hoped to start a new life, but he was detained by the police. Meanwhile, happy Andre found Cecile and announced that Dieter had been arrested. Andre hopes that now when everything is over, his beloved will return to him. But Cecile cannot do that, knowing that Andre will never let go of the past. She is already 40 years old and wants to have a child. Andre, however, is not ready for that. It seems like this is the end of their relationship. Andre was determined to have Dieter extradited, so he turned to the Ministry of Justice in Paris. He was assured that they had done everything possible, but the Austrians released Krombach at the request of the German authorities. Even after this, Andre did not give up, trying to draw the attention of officials and the public to this case. Having examined all the leads, Andre pointed out to his lawyer the negligence and venality of the court, but François Guibault decided to drop the case, considering it a failure. Whatever Andre does, it will not change anything. The statute of limitations for the crime will expire soon, so Andre can no longer afford mistakes. He decided to retire early to fully devote himself to the pursuit of justice. Bavaria, 2006. Andre knows that Krombach is living somewhere here and is searching for him everywhere. It turned out that Dieter got a job at a private clinic, but one of his former patients recognized him, and Krombach was arrested. Kempten Prison, 2008. Dieter was released from custody and was met by his adult daughter. They had no idea that Andre had been following them all this time right to their doorstep. Without hesitation, Andre knocked on the door and came face to face with Dieter, telling him that he would never leave him alone. At night, Andre doesn't sleep, remembering Kinka. Since Andre couldn't achieve justice through legal means, he hired bandits who attacked Dieter, put him in the trunk of a car and drove off in an unknown direction. Witnesses to the crime called the police. The bandits managed to cross the border control, and after punishing Dieter, left him by the river canal. Boris Malevsky called the local authorities, and posing as a police officer, told them about a man who committed a serious crime 27 years ago. Later, Andre received a call from Boris and learned that the deed was done. Andre was planning to settle with the bandits, but the police arrested them. And so Andre Bamberski is arrested. Dieter was sent to the hospital, and Andre was sent to prison. Andre dedicated his whole life to ensuring that Dieter received the punishment he deserved, but perhaps it was all in vain. Andre never expected to be visited by the lawyer. Upon learning of what had happened, François immediately boarded the next flight. It is still unknown whether Dieter will be released or detained. The prosecutor refused to talk to Andre about it. But thanks to the lawyer, Andre got the opportunity to speak to the press. He expressed his gratitude to the people he hired who did the job instead of the justice of several countries. Danny was summoned for questioning. She did not change her mind, but when the investigator read the testimonies of numerous victims of Dieter, Danny had nothing to say. Soon Andre received a call from François Guibault, who delivered excellent news. Krombach was placed in prison and would finally stand trial. Leaving the cemetery, Danny crossed paths with Andre, but they didn't exchange a word. Andre visited Kalinka's grave. He kept his promise and went all the way. This fight he fought for his daughter. She would have been 44 years old now. Then a voiceover tells that in 2012, Dieter Krombach was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Andre, on the other hand, received a year in prison with mitigating circumstances.